So it is now 7 o'clock on February 26th or 22nd. Sorry, it was a long drive today. Let me do a roll call. District 1, Andrea.
Present.
Jennifer. You're probably not unmuted yet. Okay. I just saw you. Danielle.
Here.
Kristen is absent tonight. Larry Bender is absent. Deborah.
Present.
John Lent. No, he's absent. Jim Stanfield.
Yes.
Molly Brown. Do you see Molly?
No, don't see Molly yet.
Okay, and I'm Trish Bartel. I am the chair and I am present. Okay, so let's get our meeting started. For chairperson announcements, just want to let everybody know that elections are coming up in May and all 4 districts have a member running. So if you're interested in running for LOCAC, please go on our website. The applications are available. In March, we're going to be reviewing all of the candidates who apply. In April, we're going to announce the candidates, and in May, the candidates will be voted on. So
You announced the date when the
May
applicants
4th.
are due.
The applications are due in March, the second week in March. And then we will vote on the candidates on May 4th. Okay. My other announcement is Public Works is going to be joining LOCAC next month. So anyone who has questions for Public Works, please either send them to me or you can present them at our next meeting. And tonight, LOCAC is going to be voting on a new member for District 3. And we will be doing that during the business items tonight. Are there any council member announcements tonight?
I'd just like to say that we are going to do a brief discussion on the Sunnyside School and the meeting we had about Parks and Rec. Unfortunately, it's going to be the last item on our agenda, so it could be, rather late, but just to let people know that we are going to have some discussion about that. It's under business items on our agenda, letter C.
Okay. Any other council members? And Jennifer, I'm going to ask you to unmute. All right. All right. County and local reports. The sheriff's report is Sergeant Slaughter here. Anybody see? If so, raise your hand. Oh, there you are. You are Stuart McDonald instead. I'm asking you to unmute. There you go.
Hi.
Hi.
Stuart McDonald from Sheriff's Coast Station. For January 2024, we had 8 assault and battery reports. There were 2 battery reports. One of those 2 was unfounded. There were 6 domestic violence reports, and fortunately 3 of those were unfounded. We had 34 disturbance calls, which included 17 general disturbances, 6 neighbor disputes, 6 loud music calls, 3 loud party calls, 1 family dispute, and 1 barking dog call. We had a residential burglary reported to us, but that burglary was also determined to be unfounded. There were 6 thefts reported. 1 was a grand theft, meaning that the value of loss was over $950, and 5 petty thefts, meaning less than $950. 2 of those petty thefts were determined to be unfounded. There were 8 vandalism calls, and unfortunately 2 of those vandalisms that occurred in Los Osos were incidences of graffiti at the Los Osos Park. And that is a circumstance that we are investigating and trying to determine a way to identify the suspects and hold them accountable for that behavior, as well as to prevent future graffiti of the same nature at the park. There were 21 suspicious circumstances calls, which included 9 suspicious circumstances, 11 suspicious subjects, and 1 suspicious vehicle. The deputies that patrol the Los Osos community in January conducted 58 enforcement stops, which included 2 bicycle stops, 4 pedestrian stops, and 52 vehicle stops. They also engaged in 33 preventative patrol activities, and in this instance, it included 3 patrol checks, 3 foot patrols, and 27 on-site activities. And that concludes my report for January, and I'm prepared for any questions or concerns from the council or from the public.
All right. Any questions from the council?
I do.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm just curious, what does it mean if something is discovered to be unfounded?
What that means is that after investigation, we determined that the crime that was reported actually did not happen, so that it would be cleared as a misunderstanding or a let me just use as an example here. Of the 6 domestic violence calls that we responded to, they may have been called in by a neighbor or a passerby that maybe saw or heard what sounded like a domestic violence situation happening. But when we get there and we interview all of the parties that are involved, we may learn that it was a verbal argument only, that there was no violence involved in the circumstance. That would be an unfounded domestic violence.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Okay. Any questions from the public? All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here tonight.
All right. Thank you. And I'll see you again next month. I'll probably hang on to the meeting for quite some time. There's a few items I'm interested in. So
Oh, good.
I'll just be hanging here. And if anyone has something to circle back on, if I'm still here, just call on me.
We appreciate that. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Captain Klingenberg here tonight? If so, please raise your hand. We have quite a few people on tonight.
I don't see him.
No, me either. Okay.
No, I do. He's on. He's on.
Where
He's
is
on
he?
the second. He's on the second page.
Thank you. Let me go to page 2. Stuart, oh, there you are. I'm asking you to unmute.
I promise I'm here. And can you hear me?
Yes, you are. I am so appreciative. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I tried to unmute myself and then, well, anyway,
That's okay.
I'm on the road, and my camera is not straight up not working. I can see that as well. And if you hear any loud banging, I think Bigfoot is in the hotel room above me. So I apologize for that as well.
Nice.
We've all had those days. Don't worry.
Yeah. And one more thing I have to apologize for, because I am in Sacramento, I don't have our statistics for the month of January, but I certainly wanted to be here and answer any questions that you guys might have for me tonight.
Okay. Does anyone in council have any questions tonight? I think there were some from last month. No? Okay. Anyone in the public have any questions for the CHP tonight? Well, then, Captain Klingenberg, I think you're free to go with Bigfoot upstairs.
I hope.
Good luck.
I hope I don't encounter him. I hope.
Yes,
not.
good luck with that one.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
Good night.
Good night. All right, let's go to county staff report with Claire Mumberger. with Slope Planning Department, and I'm going to unmute you. Here you are. Okay.
You. Thanks. So yeah, I have just a couple updates and then a little bit of a longer update on the Los Osos Habitat Conservation Plan. So the monthly active permit and plan reports were shared with Trish and Larry this week. Please contact me or let Trish know if you have any questions about what's on those reports. The Title 19 and Title 8 ordinance amendments, also known as the Los Osos Offset Program update, those are going to the Board of Supervisors for a hearing next Tuesday, February 27th. They were, the amendments were introduced to the public on February 6th as a consent item, but the agenda is available for next Tuesday. And this item is the first item in the afternoon sessions.
Okay.
And then I think Trish has it later on the agenda for council business. But there is a community advisory council training that the county is putting on in April, on Friday, April 26th from 8:30 in the morning to 12 p.m. It's going to be in downtown SLO in the City County Library on Palm Street. And next month, I'll probably ask for a head count from council members on who's planning to attend. That training is for all current council members, people who are council members right now. The first part of the training will be recorded. The first part of the orientation will be recorded for anyone who can't make it that day.
Okay.
All right, and so moving on to my Habitat Conservation Plan update. So really awesome news. The incidental take permit has been issued to the county from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Los Osos Habitat Conservation Plan was approved last week on February 15th.
Yay!
Yeah, big news. That's 23 years in the making. We're pretty excited about that. It's a 25-year term, the take permit. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is issuing a press release next Monday on their website, and they'll also have an FAQ page. So I'm just kind of giving like a high level, this is what it is, this is, these are the next steps. But if you have more in-depth questions, you can tune into that website next week. And then also, Trish has the contact information of the county project manager if you have any more in-depth questions. But really what the next steps will look like, county planning and building will need to go to our Board of Supervisors to get direction on implementation of the plan. That'll include a funding request, a staffing request for a full-time staff member to implement the plan, and then also direction on entering an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, with an implementing entity, which is just the entity that will actually do the field work to restore and conserve habitat in Los Osos. We don't know exactly when we're going to the board with those requests. We are targeting to go this fall, though. And once the board gives us the direction on staffing and funding and implementation, we would then actually start implementing the policies of the HCP. Yeah, that's just like my really high level overview.
So Claire, a question. Did you just say that even though it's been approved by Fish and Wildlife, the next step, taking it to the Board of Supervisors, is not going to be till fall 2024?
In the meantime, staff will be forming a recommendation for what implementation
Okay.
should look like. So what that means is there are a couple routes that can be taken. we're probably looking at recommending land acquisition because
Okay.
it allows the county to accrue more credit.
Mhm.
The other route that could be taken is habitat restoration, which is just a much longer and more costly process to accrue credits.
Mhm.
But yeah, in the meantime, we're forming a recommendation on how to implement and really formulating the funding request too.
Okay. Thank you. And Andrea, you had your hand up.
Thanks, Claire. That's great news. I'm really going to be sad not to ask you about that every meeting. Is it anticipated that there'll be an RFP or an RFQ for the implementing entity? I'm guessing it's going to be somebody local, so a firm locally. Does that question make sense?
Yeah, that question makes sense. And I don't know how that would look if there would be an RFP. That's a great question.
Okay.
I
know it's a little jumping the gun a little bit. I was just curious.
So see, you have another question for next month.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry. I can't help myself.
No, it's good. It's very good.
Thanks, Claire.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions from council for Claire? No. Is there any questions from the public for Claire? Wow, quiet meeting tonight. Okay. Thank you, Claire.
Yeah. Thank you.
Are you going to stick around for a little bit?
Oh, yeah, I'll be here.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
The supervisor report, Supervisor Gibson. I know you are here. I saw you. Anyone know what page he's on?
He's on the
First page.
first page.
Right down below you.
Below me. Okay. Deborah, help me out here.
Let's see.
I'm not seeing him. I know you're here.
I'm going to see if I can unmute him.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
You're very
Thank you.
kind, and it's not at all clear that I'm on any page at any one time. Let me first apologize for my voice, which is just about gone today, and so be happy to hang around as long as I can, but I don't think that's going to be long after this report. Let me just add on a bit. I think you probably got it from Claire's fine description of the HCP, but basically to take advantage of the incidental take permit, the county has to get ahead of the deal. The idea of the HCP is that if there's an impact here where something's going to get built, we got to do something good someplace else within the scope of the mapped area for the HCP to offset that. And the way it works is we've actually got to get ahead of the game by doing something good before we start incurring impacts. So that idea of acquiring a piece of land, which could be preserved, which could be restored, is why there's an implementation plan that needs to be developed. That works like an internal loan within the county. We have money in the bank. We fairly regularly loan amounts of money from our treasury out to different projects as long as we have an expected source of repayment. And that's what the impact fees that would be charged to projects would be repaying that loan. Eventually we'll catch up, we'll get the loan paid off, and we'll be able to move this going forward. And likewise, and I'm pretty sure Claire can correct me if I'm wrong, that the addition of staffing would be paid for by as an overhead to this, to administering this program. So it's just more of the tedium that needs to be done. I realize that the HCP is going to be of benefit to the community before we get the community plan fully through the Coastal Commission process, but it will really come into its own when we do get the community plan through Coastal and it gets implemented. So Claire also did a great job describing, we're going to take action on Title 19. That's pretty cut and dried. It's just new information as to how much offsetting you need to do to get the desired result. It's the study that we commissioned showed that it's working. So we're just refining it basically, and that should, I hope, sail through no problem. And then I know you mentioned Sunnyside School, and I'm really happy for the interest that's been expressed in the community. I've talked to various community members, and we are at the same place. I have not seen staff's. I haven't checked with staff on this, but what we're hoping for is to have a necessary packet of information as to the situation on the Sunnyside School property presented to us in time for closed session this coming Tuesday. If that, in fact, all that information is available, we'll meet in closed session and determine next steps. And so until we figured out next steps, there's really, I've got nothing further to report on what's going on there. I know there's a lot of community interest about a variety of uses. I share that interest, and we're just going to have to see how this goes. So I didn't know what the substance of your discussion later at the end of the meeting. I think the probability of me being in a conscious state at that point is low.
That's okay. We will keep you and Blake informed. Don't worry.
I figured since you're an advisory council, that would be.
We will advise. I have two questions for you, Supervisor Gibson.
Sure.
When you were talking about the HCP, you said the internal loan from the county will come from impact fees from development. Since we're seeing so little development,
Yeah.
and can't have development, does that mean that we can't acquire lands or get anything started or going forward?
Let me try again on that. The financing of this hasn't been finalized yet, and it won't be until it's brought before the board and it's affirmatively approved with at least 3 votes. But the one way it could happen is that a loan gets made internally that would allow us, for instance, to buy a piece of property or do some other good thing. And then that loan will get repaid by the mitigation. I should have probably called them mitigation fees.
Okay.
That people will pay. And so, for instance, it remains to be seen. This is if you're going to create an impact, it doesn't necessarily have to be building a house, but fuel management will create an impact that will presumably generate some fees. Whatever fee revenue would then go back to repaying the loan.
That makes sense. Okay, thank you. The other question I had when we were talking about the Title 19, I know that our 3 water providers sent a letter to the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Department on saying that they had great concerns about the Title 19 recommendations. Was that taken into consideration?
We've been in conversation with the water purveyors, and I think there'll be further conversation. In the end, I don't think we're talking about major tweaks to the program. I'm pretty confident that we can settle on something that is acceptable to them. So I'm not worried about that.
Okay. All right, Deborah, you have your hand up.
Yes, I actually wanted to make a comment about the HCP. We have so many people here tonight, and I wanted to explain how important the HCP is. Bruce, I'll let you rest your voice on this. We had a funding from LOCAC for a sidewalk at the Bayview Elementary School. It was all ready to go. It was planned, and they got ready to put that sidewalk in. They found a snail, and they said, "We can't do anything." Why? Because you don't have a habitat conservation plan that allows us to create an environment for a snail to live, because we're going to take an environment for this sidewalk. And so we lost a sidewalk. And that's how it goes. Now that we have the HCP on its way, we'll be able to do things like safe routes to school.
Thank you.
That's why I'm so happy.
Yes, Molly, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so I have a question. I'm not sure if it's for Bruce or Claire, but I guess I just don't understand why we have to purchase more land as opposed to, we have pretty much a green belt around our whole town. And some of it, I think, is state land. Why can't some of that be used for it? And again, I'm just not very knowledgeable about HCPs.
Yeah, and someone in the chat wondered, HCP, I think we've said it, is a habitat conservation plan. Excuse me. As Claire made mention of, it's really a matter of timing. If we go to a piece of land that's already protected by ownership and try to do restoration, we're going to have to show that that restoration is actually having some effect, as I understand it, before we can claim credit for it. And whereas if we secure a piece of land and we've done the inventory, we know that there is land on the in the area where mitigations are planned. But again, my understanding, and Claire, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if we acquire land, that has caused a positive effect in and of itself, and so it's much quicker.
But that land that the county might potentially purchase still will also need to have restoration done on it?
Potentially, it becomes a site where we could potentially get more positive benefit by doing a restoration down the line. This is going to be a long, like Claire indicated, this permit's issued for 25 years. So I think we got to think in terms of years over which this program of offsetting the environmental impacts to the environmentally sensitive areas is actually going to play out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Claire?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a few things to the clarity Supervisor Gibson is providing. The HCP and the community-wide incidental take permit was something voluntary that the county took on. Because it's better for the habitat of the endangered species like the Marl Shore banded snail. Because it's a more holistic look at the habitat, and it's also fair for property owners. So that's context for what we're talking about. Also wanted to just note that we can have the project planning, the project manager, Kit Marias, we can have him here next month at the LOCAC meeting, if that's something that you'll have time for on the agenda. So everyone can really think about this and look into the information and bring more questions for him, because he can be here.
That would be great. Okay. Any other questions from council for Supervisor Gibson? Any questions from the public for Supervisor Gibson? Ask now, or he's going to go to bed and rest that voice,
At least
or get a hot toddy, or get
at
a hot
least
toddy.
stop talking. Yes, I have some medicine planned.
Good. No, okay. I don't see any hands up.
On your way.
If hands would be up,
There's a hand up. I see my youngest constituent. Oh, there's Anissa.
Oh, how beautiful. Okay. Thank you very much.
You bet. Thanks. And of course, get in contact with myself or Blake if you got any further questions, and we'll wish you a great rest of the meeting. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Yep, bye-bye.
All right, CSD report, Matthew Fourcroy. If you could raise your hand, that would be so beneficial.
Matthew, are you just Matthew?
Yeah, he's on the front page.
Front page.
There you go.
There you are.
There you are.
Good evening.
Hi, Matt.
Yeah, I do. I have a little update from the CSD. I think the first thing is that we just had our board election. So we have a new president who has been president before, which is Marshall Ohilsky. And our vice president this year is going to be Christine Womack. So we had a few changes last month. The couple of the big things going on basically have to do with fire and have to do with our infrastructure and our capital improvement projects. So I'll kind of go through those different things. One milestone that's going on with our fire service is that we've been working on a standard of cover survey for the community since last September. And the standard of cover goes through all of the service that we currently have. It looks at future growth projections and looks at ways to improve levels of service and also how to meet service for future growth and future development for the next 20 years. So that cover has been, or that cover of standard of cover study has been going on since September. It's a lot of S's tonight. And we have the final document, and we believe we're going to be discussing that at our March meeting, which is coming up. Out of this study, out of this survey, it is going to talk about things like, do we need a second station in Los Osos in the future, and where the best place for any future stations or equipment would be. And it's really going to give us the ability to put together a strategic plan for the community for fire service into the future. So this is kind of one of the last pieces of data before we kind of start on this strategic plan. Previously, I want to touch on that, is that we did a full assessment of the current fire station, and there's some capital improvements to be done there. So that combined with this future and standard of cover, those two things are going to go together and really look at what expenditures and what the community is going to need going forward. We have a few major capital improvement projects going on. One is the program Seawell, which is over on Bay Oaks, back behind the real estate office off of LOVR. The 3 phases are complete. We drilled the well, we installed a water transmission main that goes down the street, and the final phase is equipping the well, basically setting it up for pumping, and that's underway right now. We're being held up a little bit. There's still electrical supply shortages for electrical equipment. So that is delaying this completion, and it looks like at this point, we're still waiting on electrical components, so it could be much later this year before that well is actually pumping. And that well is part of the basin management plan. It's to not pump overall more water, but reduce pumping closer to the bay and pump water further away from the bay to halt seawater intrusion. The next big project we've been working on is the 16th Street tank project. We did that tank restoration over the holidays, and it went a lot smoother. We had done the south tank, and now we just did the north tank. And everybody around that neighborhood there's been a lot of work. So definitely want to thank everybody for understanding. There's been a lot of noise because the tanks were completely sandblasted and then painted. So there was a lot of noise for a little while, but that's complete. And the other big project was a groundwater monitoring well on Skyline Drive. That was another Basin Management Committee project, and it's complete, and the wells are ready to use for our spring monitoring. And that's going to add some important data to monitor the seawater intrusion and know exactly where that's happening. So those are the major pieces. I did want to touch base on LOCAC and CSD have a partnership to work on Parks and Recreation. I'm sure you guys are going to mention that, but I just wanted to throw that out there, that I participated in our general manager, Ron Munns, and I think that it was really beneficial, and I really look forward to collaborating on ways to improve parks and recreation opportunities.
Thank you so much, Matthew. I appreciate that. Any questions for Matthew from council? That was a great report. Any questions from the community? I see Jose Torres with your hand up. I'm asking you to unmute.
Okay, I'm muted. I have a question for Matthew. Congratulations on the standard of cover study. Is that an internal study that you're doing, or did you guys contract that out to a third party?
Oh, you're muted, Matthew.
Oh, sorry, Matthew. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
No, it was a third party that did that study. We used Citygate Associates for that study. And so that was completely third party.
Okay, and the other question I had in regards to your standard of cover, you may or may not know, is it aligned with the San Luis Obispo County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan of 2019-2020?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that specifically. I don't know that answer.
Okay.
But I know that at our March meeting, which will be Thursday, March 7th, we'll have all the people at the district boardroom that know all those answers.
March 7th. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other questions for Matthew? Okay. Thank you so much, Matthew. That was a really good report. Jim Stanfill for the Chamber of Commerce report.
I just always feel like my report is so minimal after the CSD does their report. It's so thorough and there's so much going on. Can I move my item above the CSD next month?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
I will try to make that happen for you.
Well, the chamber is coming back. A lot of people know we've just started building, and I think we floundered a little bit, and as a result, we've kind of some of the fire, I guess you might say. But I think we're coming back. Got an excellent board. We just had a board retreat. We approved a budget. Also approved some activities that are coming up that we enjoy doing, and the community enjoys us doing them. We're having our big thing coming up next is on April the 24th. This is our awards banquet, which was very successful last time. Excellent food, had a little music entertainment. We were able to recognize some outstanding people. So put that on your calendar, April the 24th, 5 o'clock, Community Center.
All right. Thank you so much, Jim. Anyone have any questions for Jim for Chamber? Anyone from the public? Okay. Thank you so much, Jim. Now we're going to move to public comments for items not on the agenda. There's no discussion on those items, and each speaker can have 3 minutes. So if you would like to speak, please raise your hand. I see Hillary. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hi, thank you, Trish. I'm a little, I think maybe confused because I think then, was it Deborah that said that at the end you will be talking about Sunnyside?
Right.
Maybe I need to save my comments till then. I think that
That would be great.
wonderful. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Rebecca, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hello, thanks for taking my comment. I just wanted to, I commented in the chat, but it would be really helpful, I think, to the general public to maybe, I don't know, dumb down the language, but give us the full meaning, not just the initials of what you're talking about, because a lot of us you're not getting comment because we don't know what's being talked about in detail or what, like for instance, Title 19. None of us know what that means specifically, or some of us do, but some of us don't. So if you could speak in a way that allows us to participate, we would really appreciate that.
Sure. Anyone else? Okay, I don't see any other hands raised. And all right, let's go on to committee reports. Oh, actually, treasurer's report. Jim.
Yeah, real quick. Beginning balance was 1,411.96. We had a deposit of 13 cents in interest, and so we have a ending balance of 1412.8008. Our treasurer.
All right, great report. Thank you. Land use. Larry could not make it tonight. Molly, do you have anything to add to the general report?
Well, do you want me to just, if you want, I can summarize the three things we talked about.
Let's wait till we get down to them.
Okay, so then I would say, yeah, I guess I don't have anything on them to add right now.
All right, let's jump over then to trees and landscaping. Andrea?
Trish, I'm going to wait till we get to our item tonight.
Okay. Outreach, there is, outreach is on hold until we find a chair. Deborah, anything on water or active transportation tonight?
So the Basin Management Committee did not have a meeting this month, so I don't have a water report on the aquifer and what's going on there. Hopefully they'll have a meeting next month and I'll be able to bring you any updates. And Active Transportation Committee did not meet this month either, so I don't have a report for them, but I will say that we are looking carefully at the situation on Pismo and 10th Street. That is an area where we plan to put in a pedestrian bike path along Pismo, and we want to make sure that we preserve that right-of-way easement. So as that progresses, I will report back.
All right, thank you. Let's go down to consent items. Molly, could you explain the first one for us?
Yeah, the first one is a request or an application for taking a patio that's on an existing single family residence. This is on Santa Lucia, which is over near sort of the First Street area. And it's basically taking what was an outdoor patio and putting a roof on it and doing a remodel on that section of the house, but it's not adding, it's basically a rectangular house and there was this little insert for a patio. So they want to enclose that and basically make it part of their home. And I don't think we had any issues with it other than, you know, of course, some people are always worried about water. If you add, you know, a bedroom or a bathroom, but within the allowed uses, I mean, we determined that we didn't have an issue with it. Yeah, that's a basic thing.
Right. Could I get a motion from council?
I'll make a motion.
First, we need a motion before we approve one.
I'll make a motion.
I said a motion. All right.
Hey, Trish, I have one comment before we take a vote.
Okay.
Just real quick. This is Andrea. Sorry, I couldn't get my hand up quick enough. And I have no issues with this particularly, but in the past we've asked that anyone that does any sort of, you know, I'll just call it an expansion, you know, perhaps look at water-wise faucets and those sorts of things. Can we add that? Is that something that we normally add to our recommendation? I mean, we're not approving it, we're recommending it to the county. Could we do that just to continue to walk down our water conservation ways?
Yeah, that's.
Isn't the county already requiring that in their application processes?
I don't know.
Yeah, let me
But I think it would be
answer
nice
that.
coming
Let me
from
answer
us.
that. So when it goes to land use, that is something that's discussed, and then recommendations are made to, well, let's make sure that all the toilets are, 1 gallon use toilets. And so those comments get sent to the county, and then the county takes that into consideration when they're doing the permit process. So land use is pretty good about, Molly's kind of new on land use, so she hasn't maybe seen this in action, but land use has been pretty good about requesting, here Lindy can speak to it, about requesting people be the most conservative as possible when they're coming forward with and asking for a permit. So I don't know if you want to let Lindy talk about that, because she's actually on that committee.
Okay, Lindy, I'm going to ask you to unmute and then we will get a motion.
Thank you very much. I'm a little concerned that the application went through for just enclosing an area to add an extra room, when actually there's a full bathroom going in there. And it's not on the application description. It's later down, you kind of go, wait a minute, there's a whole bathroom going in here too. I think that's a mistake to allow that to go through without that corrected in the application, what they're planning on doing. It's not just enclosing a room and adding that. And for further discussion about water use, that, may be something that gets discussed if it needs to be, but the fact that it's not in the description of the project is I think is not right.
It was shown
If
on
they
the
want to
plans
leave a
though, wasn't
bathroom-
it? The bathroom was shown on the plans, on the architectural
Yeah,
drawings,
but
wasn't?
the description of the plan is that they're only going to enclose a room, not add an entire bathroom. That should
Molly,
be on the description.
Molly, so my question is, did land use discuss this?
I believe we did, didn't we, Lindy?
So if land use discussed this and land use voted to approve this and send it to the consent agenda.
With a correction.
Okay, so
With that
we,
correction. And it
we,
didn't get done, I guess.
we can add that comment to our approval and our motion.
Yeah, that it should be a clear discussion that it's a room and a bathroom addition, a full bathroom.
Okay. Okay.
Thank
room
you. I
and
think
full
that's just,
bathroom. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve this project?
Motion some time ago.
Okay. Can I get a second?
Correction.
Can I get a second on this project?
I second.
Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand. So I have, okay, do I have any nays? Okay, this project is approved and we will add the comment to the approval and send it to the county. Okay. All right, next on the agenda is Mandy Davis, and she's going to do offshore wind presentation by React Alliance. So if we can find Mandy Davis. Let's see.
I'm not seeing her.
She should be on.
Okay, let's just go down. Let's see. With the sharing of the screen, I can't go through all of the participants.
It would be Amanda Davis.
Oh,
Do you
Amanda.
see an Amanda Davis?
Let's see.
I see her.
There
She's
it
on the
is.
front page.
I
There you
got
go.
her. I got her. Us to, well, I don't think I can unmute her. There she is, unmuted. Okay, good. All right.
Okay. Sorry about
This
that,
has been
Amanda.
okay. I am looking at this. I have done very few Zoom meetings. I'm old school, and I usually make presentations in person, etc. And so I'm used to waving my hands around and and gesticulating the whole shot. I can't see myself on here. And do you guys have an image of me or
No, we just have your name.
okay?
And we can hear your voice.
Then that's good. It's really good that you can't see me. So, what I'm going to be doing, and Andrea's going to help me out, is that she is bringing up the PowerPoint that I'll be presenting. And just a little bit about React and about myself. I am president of React Alliance. Many of you may not have heard of us because we're new. And what we are is we are a very diverse group of individuals that has been studying and is very concerned about the offshore wind projects, about the dearth of information that is out there, because quite honestly, the wind companies and our government, both our state and our federal government, are painting very pretty pictures of this. And I've been researching this for a very long time. We were all very concerned. We decided that we needed to start a nonprofit called React Alliance in order to get the information out to people that they are not getting with what I term dog and pony shows that the wind companies are subjecting the public to. So we have had numerous opportunities to give these presentations. You guys are really lucky because I am going to subject you to the short one tonight. So there will be, some gaps in the information. I will be available to answer any questions, but I highly recommend that you get on our website, which is reactalliance.org, and it is very informative, and you can do all the research that you want. And we encourage questions and participation. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this. And this is a short version of our PowerPoint on California offshore floating wind energy and what they're not telling us about the impacts, because the impacts to our environment, our economy, and our culture, our way of life here are significant. Change. Next. So what we have here locally, there are, it's a little on the deceiving side what happens with the wind companies. They will start off with one community, with one small or what they consider to be small project. And then what ends up happening is they expand out, and they expand out pretty significantly. The offshore wind project here off of Morro Bay is a total of 376 square miles. And within that 376 square miles, there will be approximately somewhere right around 300 to potentially 350 structures. They are all floating offshore wind. And it is a very, very new technology. And I'll get into that a little bit later on. There is also another lease area that has already, they're already starting the permitting process, et cetera, as well. And that's up by Humboldt, and that's 207 square miles. Next. Next. Yeah. So this is a list of the leasees, and the leasees down here in our area are Equinor, Golden State Wind, and Invenergy. Two of those are not they're foreign, and investment firms, etc. And Equinor, I believe, is the largest of all of them. And they are actually kind of sort of leading the way with the permitting process. And they have been really quite, well, relatively aggressive about the process. What is interesting about this, though, is, and I will go into this in the next slide, is that this is just the beginning. This is a small project compared to what California via AB 525 wants to engage in by the year 2035. Next. So this is a map of the areas that are inclusive within AB 525. And you can see kind of sort of in the middle, they're calling it the Monterey area, which is inclusive of the Morro Bay lease. And you can see that little triangle in blue. That is what they're starting off with, including the Humboldt one this up. You can see what the plans are in the future. And that area is over 4,000 square miles. So this is a really big deal for us to be taking a look at what they are proposing, and not only what they're proposing here and what the impacts are going to be here, but the vast majority of those proposed sites in the future are in Northern California, and they are prime fishing area. And they are also, what we are privy to here in California is some of the richest marine ecosystems on Earth. And we are right in the middle of migratory patterns. And so that's very, very important to know that this is the potentiality for the future. Next. So I am going to talk about this, and this is something I'm very, very familiar with, and I have been researching it for years, ever since the 2010, no, I think it was 2012 PG&E seismic testing permits that were turned down by the CCC. And the projects, I kind of break it down into pre-construction and construction and post-construction, or in other words, operation. And some of the most devastating impacts to our area and to the marine ecosystem are in the pre-construction. The surveys that they're going to be getting to be able to do, to check for their anchorages and for the cabling, etc. That that is called HRG, and those tests are done at very, very high decibels. And the high decibels, at 160 dBs or decibels, it can cause tissue damage in marine mammals. It can cause tissue damage in fish, in pretty much all organisms. But what they are planning on doing is they are planning on doing these tests at upwards of 228 decibels. And over 207 will kill fish. Over 217 kills the entire water column, the larval forms, the base of the food chain. Next. An area of real concern for me is the fact that these companies are not only going to be doing surveys offshore near the wind lease areas, they are going to be doing surveys near shore. And that is very, very concerning, because there are a bunch of different issues with that. They are going to be doing high decibel bottom surveying, and they're also planning on doing dredging. And both of those activities are going to be in search for areas that they can lay the cables from the facilities, from the turbines and the substations, into land where they can go into the grid. Here's the problem with it, especially with cetaceans and whales. I was just down in Mexico, and the protected gray whale, they are all having their babies. And in about a month and a half, those mothers and calves will be heading north. We are, let me just put it this way. This project could not have been sited in a worse place. Not only are we smack dab in the middle of a migratory pattern for marine mammals, cetaceans in particular, we are also right in the middle of a migratory pattern for birds, the Pacific flyway. But as it relates to the whales, what's going to be happening is the humpback whales are going to be coming back in. Those gray whales with their babies, they hug the coast to protect their babies from predation. The orcas and the white sharks, it is absolutely necessary that they do that if they're going to protect them and protect the future of the species. If these guys are allowed to do their near shore tests, both the bottom, the HRG, the tests, and the dredging, what's going to happen is, besides the sound impacts, the dredging and those sounds are going to displace all of these migrating animals, and it will leave them open to predation and a very, very high mortality rate. So you have a mortality rate just with the high decibels. But then what ends up happening is these lovely creatures are protecting their babies, and they're going to have to go outside of those areas. It's very, very concerning. Next. So this is just, I know a lot of people have heard about the dead whales that have been found on the East Coast. The East Coast has been having to deal with this. It is a different technology. Theirs are not floating. They are fixed, but they still are doing the same kinds of high decibel site surveys to be able to site each one of these and to figure out where all the cables are going. There is a direct correlation between all of the whales that have died and the offshore wind survey vessels, where they were, and so you can see, I mean, the graph, it's just incredible. Why are we not hearing about this? Because the federal government is very, very, very invested in these projects, and BOEM has been, basically getting away with getting the projects okayed with minimal EISs and very insufficient data. And NOAA is not doing necropsies on these animals because, I hate to say it, they know what they're going to see. Because many times these animals are deaf because of their because of what's going on with the survey vessels, and or they are displaced, and a combination of displaced, confused, deaf, they hit ships and they get entangled. And it has nothing to do with climate change. It has everything to do with the kind of noise that these animals are having to deal with. Next. So this is a very unfortunate picture of a humpback whale that was found in January of 2023. And this is, like we said, one of very few. What everybody needs to understand is this, is when you have this kind of damage and this kind of mortality in the ocean, and especially where we are, where it's very deep, it drops off really fast. What we see on shore is a small percentage of what is actually happening. So the small cetaceans are sinking to the bottom. Many of the large ones are too, and they're still seeing these kinds of events. So it's really quite unfortunate. And this is not something that we want to see here on the West Coast. Next. Like I said earlier, the impacts to the wildlife and the ecosystem are really significant with wind. This is a picture of land operations, and unfortunately, they put these things in areas where that there's quite a bit of wind, and there's a lot of damage, especially to raptors and the animals that are a little bit higher up on the food chain. And you know, this is just incredibly sad. But what is going to happen is we are on the Pacific Flyway. And what that means is the Pacific Flyway is a major, basically it's just kind of sort of their road that they come down, and they will fly in offshore, and they'll catch, you know, the winds and come in with the storms in early, you know, late fall, early winter. And what happens is not only are the animals that live in the area and the different kinds of birds that we see here are going to be damaged by these turbines. But when we have all of these animals, and by the way, that's the reason why we have the bird festival, is we have hundreds of thousands of birds that stop over, they may even winter over, and they come through this area, and they will be in jeopardy from these floating wind farms.
And
And
Amanda, we're at our 15 minutes. So if I don't want
oh,
to.
I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I was going so slow. Okay, so next one. So this is, you know, they go at 170 miles an hour, and they just rip the birds apart. Next one. And these are some of the birds that are really going to be affected. Next one. Next. It is really going to affect our fishing economy. The fact that these surveys are going to really destroy the fisheries themselves, but also when the wind farms are up, there's going to be considerable loss of fishing opportunity, and there will be increased ship traffic. But the fisheries are going to be really devastated in this area, as will ecotourism, to replace really vibrant economies with a potentially destructive economy, and one that could fall apart in the future, which we're already seeing, is not a smart idea. Next. I'm sorry, I talked about the whales so much, you guys. It's what is going to be happening with the cables that are going to be coming from these turbines and the substation is they are going to be going through marine protected areas. This is a map of the marine protected areas, and that is illegal. That is not allowed. How they're going to get through this, Lord only knows, because they're at the beginning of the permitting process right now. And by the way, if this is the last thing that I say, they have told everybody that this is a done deal. Do not believe that. They only have 2 of their permits out of a possibility of potentially around 33. This is not a done deal. We have a say. This is something that we can do something about. This is a diagram of how offshore wind farms, you know, that the floating ones. And so you can see them. They're substations. The electricity goes through electrical cables, and there are multiple ones into the power stations. But it is a network of cables that that is impossible to fish in, and is nearly impossible for any of the cetaceans or lots of the animals to go through. Next. This is just an example of how big the substations are. These will be floating substations. They are huge. They basically take the AC current, convert it into DC, and then it goes from these things through the cables, which, by the way, emit major EMFs into shore. And that's why they have to do the dredging to find out where those locations are. They will also be operating these with once through cooling. I'm not sure how they're going to get away with that, because once through cooling is not allowed. It's illegal, but that is the plan. Next. And this is just an example of how huge the ships are that are going to be servicing this. And they will be requiring 80 gallons of oil. The fact of the matter is this industry is not green, it is not sustainable, it is not renewable, and it has a huge footprint. And this is part of that process. Next. I'm going to kind of sort of just gloss over this because many of us have heard that they are going to be looking at industrializing several of our ports, which is absolutely true. They need industrial ports. This one is a diagram of what potentially can happen in Avila.
Amanda, I'm going to have to cut you off.
Okay.
It's been 20 minutes.
Okay, and so this is the last one. I've already said it is not green, it is not sustainable, it is not renewable. Please look into it. And we invite you to come to our special event on March 9th. That is, go ahead and go through them, Andrea. That is going to be
really,
at the-
I have to cut you off.
Thank
We've got
you.
to get back to the agenda. Thank you very much for coming. And she did say where her website is, so please just go to her website if you need additional information.
And if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer.
Thank you. All right, let's go on to our other regular agenda item. Molly, could you talk about the Pratt project?
Yeah, so the Pratt project is a large project up kind of at the top of Cabrillo Estates. The Pratt proposal is to do a lot line adjustment between 4 parcels, making some changes to them, not proposing development at this time, but proposing changes. I had, asked them if they had been in touch with the Cabrillo Estates Property Owners Association, whatever type of association you guys have up there. And I thought they had indicated yes, but
well, I do see Miss.
I'm not really clear.
Well, I see Miss Pratt is here. Let's see if
Emily from Oasis has her hand up. So I think she's the one doing the presentation.
Yeah. Okay. So she's going to do a presentation now.
Yes, she's going to do a presentation.
Okay, great.
Emily?
Yeah, hi there. Let me start my video, and if I'm able to share my screen, I didn't mean to cut Molly off. If you wanted to do any summary, I just raised my hand to make sure you could find me, that's all.
Okay.
No problem.
But I do have.
Yeah, I think you can share screen. Trish, can she share screen?
Yeah, she can.
I think that should work if you can see that.
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Yes, so as Molly had mentioned, it's south of Cabrillo Estates, within the urban reserve line. It is a lot line adjustment. So that is reviewed and approved by the subdivision review board since it's in the coastal zone. It's reconfiguring 4 existing lots, so there's no new parcels. It's not a subdivision, and we are not proposing development with the lot line adjustment. So it is adjusting those lines on the paper. Right now, the parcels are rather irregularly shaped, ranging from 0.36 acres up to 60 acres. The adjusted configuration clusters the 3 of the parcels over to the northeast section of the property, 1 being 6 acres and 2 of them at 3 acres. This is consistent with the residential suburban land use designation that's on the property. So those are larger than the minimum parcel size required by the residential suburban land use category. And then parcel 4 is a larger parcel at 108 acres. So the parcels are clustered outside of the steeper slope areas, so it's the flatter area of the property. One item that we did change from when we presented this at the land use committee was we have now deleted the access and utility easement from the proposal. That was originally proposed to be coming off of Rodman, but after talking to our land surveyor, for lot line adjustments and because the property is held as in single ownership, that access easement wasn't something that we could do at this time since you're not able to give yourself an easement. So that was just one point of clarification. And then also in between the land use committee review and today we did have a discussion with the Cabrillo Estates Owners Association. So that was yesterday afternoon. So we did chat with them and communicate our intentions and listen to their comments on things. But all in all, Rodman is, and all of the streets through here are county maintained public roads. We're not proposing any new access or driveways. So I don't think there was any necessary decision or direction needed from them, more so just a disclosure and discussion for information.
Okay. All right, is that all that you're going to be sharing by screen?
Yes.
Okay,
I
so if
can
you
put
could.
up if you want for reference, but
No, I think we have all seen this, right, Council? Okay.
Yes.
All right, let's go to Molly.
Okay, so Emily, can you explain again why you removed the easement? Because you're proposing these 3 lots and 2 of them don't have really access to any utilities?
so the lots themselves are still under common ownership. So there is access through lots 1 and 2, because you can of course go across your own property as you see fit. In the future for development, if there is development in the future, and those parcels are sold to other properties, then an easement of sorts or an easement would need to be established. But at this point in time, because there is no development and it is under the same ownership, it's not part of the lot line adjustment scope.
Okay.
The question I have is, what is the purpose for parcel 4? How will that be utilized?
It is zoned residential suburban. It's not technically a remainder lot, but after shuffling 3 of the parcels into more of a rectilinear configuration, that's what was remaining. So nothing is proposed other than it to exist.
Okay. Andrea.
Thanks, Trish. I'm curious about I listened to the land use committee meeting, just because I'm always interested in what land use is doing. And I'm curious about the property owners, the Cabrillo Estate property owners meeting, and were there concerns from the Cabrillo Estate property owners? And has everybody been good neighbors? Just what can somebody give me an overview of how that went?
Sure. One of the things that we talked about, more broadly, not directly related to this lot line adjustment, was the ongoing fire concern and secondary access or another way out. That is something that will probably remain a conversation and a consideration in the future if there is developments on the adjusted parcels. Those regulations for fire safety, secondary access, and those things would come into play. So there's that component, and then the Firewise community and looking at that. I know that there's some, in talking to the Pratt sisters earlier this week, they are aware of some recent storm damage with some of the trees out there. And now that the rains have stopped, they'll be scheduling some maintenance out there on the trees.
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, some of it, as I recall, some of it is fairly heavily treed with eucalyptus and such, correct?
Yeah, there are some stands of eucalyptus out there. CAL FIRE is out there periodically inspecting things, and any of their requests, commands, edicts, we follow through with and address. So, and the county, will allow some tree removals of smaller trees, but larger trees are unless there's damage or they're a threat, the county prefers to see those remain.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council?
See if I can put my hand. Let me just put my
Yep.
hand.
Go ahead, Deborah.
Yeah, one of the other issues that was brought up at that meeting, because I happened to be at that meeting, I live in Cabrillo Estates, is that some of the eucalyptus trees are very, very tall, and those that are right along Rodman could potentially fall. Their eucalyptus trees have a shallow root, so they could fall and block off that street of Rodman very easily, and that would impede any emergency services or people trying to get out of the community. So that was another item that was brought up as a concern as far as the parcel 4, and just right along where it runs along Rodman.
Yeah, and that has been brought up numerous times over the past years, is the trees off of Rodman, the eucalyptus trees, they have fallen down in storms. They have taken out fences. And I know that there has not been good conversations with the owners on trimming those trees. So I know that has been a big item that has come up a couple times. All right. I see Bev Pratt, you have your hand up. I'm asking you to unmute.
Yes. Hi, my sister and I are both here. She's just not on the screen. We have worked to be good stewards of those trees in the last 6 to 8 years. We have done tree trimming on a regular basis, taken out what diseased trees that we can, and also lowered them. It is a continuous effort to take care of them and to be in contact with the neighbors on either side.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Okay. Emily, if you could close your screen so I could see the full screen so I can see hands. Thank you. No other questions from council? All right, let's go to the community. Lindy, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get the unmute sign. I had a couple questions. During our land use discussion about the property, there was a idea of maybe, because I think it is an unsafe area to put 3 dwellings at the end of a very tight exit through the Cabrillo Estates. And the idea was to move those lots down further where they had better access, perhaps even where the eucalyptus grove is. And so I have not heard if that was discussed by the Pratt family. And I think that's a very, maybe more productive way of putting the properties in areas where development is going to be easier access to the roadways. And so I think that's something I'd like to hear if they've considered that, because all 2 of them at least could be moved further down where they have access. And then I have an oddball question, but would the Pratt family consider that number 4 property, as it's shown right now, to be a part of the maybe mitigation towards approving these lot line adjustments? I just think the community kind of needs some of the help that we have traditionally had not had. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out as an off the wall idea for consideration. I would highly approve the project anywhere, I guess, if the large portion of land were kept natural and could be our habitat conservation bank. And I appreciate protecting eucalyptus. I think they're, you know, do have a lot of value. So sometimes they need to go, but that's it.
Thank you, Lindy. All right. Okay, Jose, luckily I can see you, but if normally I need you to use the hand raising, okay?
Yes, thank you. I was looking for that thing on my little panel here. I don't see it, so I apologize for that. I appreciate the time. My name is Jose Torres. I'm a retired fire chief, 37 years in the fire service and been deployed to many wildland fires, including the Jesucita Fire, Paradise Fire, and the Thomas Fire in Ventura County. So first of all, I want to thank Miss or Mrs. Bev Pratt and her sister for really trying to manage that eucalyptus grove that we have here between, I think it's properties 2791 and 2801 on Rodman there. And in the past, we have had some, I guess, some eucalyptus fall and do some damage. That's one concern, but I guess what I'd like to do is just to see if we can get some more trimming in that area, just so we don't have that possibility. It's really a probability for it to come down, whether it's a rain event, a wind event, or a fire event. That's going to impact our ingress and egress. So if we can maybe somehow get some more work done in there to top some of those trees or get rid of the younger ones, because they're just going to grow and become more of a nuisance. I live here on Bowie Drive in Cabrillo Estates. I could see the trees. I have a lot of them. I have quite a few on my backyard, and I've felled approximately 8 of them, anywhere from 80 to 120 feet, big trees. And I've done it for several reasons, obviously safety and wildfire prevention. But I'm just on here to, as a resident, as somebody who has experience in wildfires, who's seen the destruction, and you saw the destruction in August of 2023 in Maui. We have the potential here, and the best recipe for preventing and mitigating those things is prevention and education. So hopefully we can work together. I'm willing to do whatever I can. I'm also part of the Fire Safety Council, San Luis Obispo County Fire Safety Council. I'm the focus group there. So if there's funds that need to be garnered for that, I'm willing to work with the Pratts to do that. And now I guess it's Oasis. So again, my concern is for the community. And so again, those trees pose a danger in several capacities. And I just want to make the board aware of that, as well as the community as a whole. And I hope that you had a good meeting with Mr. Simpkins today regarding that. So thank you very much for your time. And again, I hope that we can work together to get something accomplished here with those trees. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca has her hand up, asking you to unmute.
Hi, I just wanted to voice support for the Pratt sisters, who are trying to follow the legacy that their dad gave them. I feel like it's important for us to conserve space and keep green space available and open for so many reasons: our health, our safety, etc. And I also feel that it's important to honor our residents, our longtime families who are in fact trying to continue the legacy that their dad left them. So I just wanted to be a voice of support. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, do we have any other questions from the community or from LOCAC Council? Okay, can I get a motion from LOCAC?
To approve?
Can I get a motion to approve this project from LOCAC?
Sure. Move approve.
Okay. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
What are you fucking doing?
I'm sorry.
Who? Okay.
Lindy has her hand up.
I'm trying to get through our motion, then I can go back to Lindy. Yeah, okay, I have a second from Molly. I will go to Lindy and then we're going to come back to a vote. Lindy, you're unmuted.
Okay, I just wanted to ask what you're approving. I thought there were some ideas that hadn't been settled. Anyway, I think if you're approving it, I would add some of the concerns that were brought up about the eucalyptus and my concern that the lots might sit better further down where they have best, safer access.
And Lindy, when I send this to the county, all of the comments that have been brought up are listed on my report and how we voted. So none of the comments will be neglected when they go to the planning department.
I was just asking if you are approving the project as it stands.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. May I have a vote from council on approval? May I see hands? Do we have any nays? Please raise your hand. Jennifer, I don't see which way you're voting. And Jennifer, you're muted. Let me ask you to unmute. Okay.
I guess I have some hesitations. I don't know if I can abstain from voting or if I have to place a vote.
No, you can abstain.
Yeah, I think I prefer to abstain.
Okay, one abstain. Any nays? Okay. The rest, yes. Okay. All right, that ends it for regular agenda item number 2. We're going to move on to business items. First one is the council needs to vote to accept Gary Katayama for District 3.
Move, we accept Gary as council member for unit number 3.
I second.
All in favor, raise your hand. Any nays? Okay, Gary, you are now one of us.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome
Welcome
aboard.
aboard, Gary.
And let's find you and unmute you. If we can do that. Anyone
Hopefully he's still on.
He was till just a few minutes ago.
He was.
Yeah, and then I lost him.
Let's see.
Okay, well, when we find him. Okay. Next thing, I just want to remind everyone, just like Claire had talked about, we have CAC, which is Community Advisory Council training, which will be on April 26th, 8:30 to noon. Please let me know if you can or cannot make it. And then I want to talk a little bit about our subcommittee meeting that we had on Sunnyside School. So we had a meeting with CSD, which the Community Service District. So I do the whole word. The Planning Commissioner, the Parks Commission, some LOCAC members, and we found out that SLO County is creating a needs assessment for parks in SLO County. So we agreed that we would like to work on the county on how we think Los Osos needs parks and active recreation, and we would like to be part of their assessment and the creation of different parks. We also talked about different locations that pocket parks and active recreation and community gardens could be put in, from Midtown to Moore Shores to Middle School to Highland Street, Pasadena Street. We located probably 12 different areas that we thought either active transportation could go in or pocket parks. And then we had a long discussion on the types of recreation that's needed here in Los Osos. Everything from inclusive playgrounds, picnic areas, community gardens, walking trails, tennis courts, pickleball courts, boat launch, either Cuesta or First Street, dog park, sports fields, including volleyball, softball. So we talked about that. We also discussed where the purple water locations are within Los Osos, because we thought those would be a great location for community gardens. And Ron Munz was able, along with Matthew, to tell us that Sunnyside School, Sea Pines Resort, Monarch Elementary, the middle school, and Baywood Elementary all have purple water connections. So at our next meeting, we'll talk about how we could put community gardens in there. And that was about it. We did talk about Sunnyside School and what could go there as far as the open space. We never talked about buildings. We only talked about the open space, and we thought sports fields could go in there, maybe community gardens with the purple water, walking trails with exercise equipment, a park course, climbing structures, and some green open space. So that's what we were talking about at that meeting. And I will open
discussion
that.
of current members who are renting rooms at the building. It's not a part of your discussion.
No, we only talked about the
fields.
Yeah, we only talk about fields because we don't have any idea what is going on with the school district and the county and what their discussions are. What we really wanted to meet about is we have the lowest percentage of parks in SLO County, and we need to do something. We need to be active on figuring out where we can put either a small pocket park, where we could put a community garden, where we could put something that can help us get additional parks or additional active recreational locations. So I will open that up to everyone and see what their thoughts were. Danielle? Oops, Danielle, where did you go? Wait, Lindy's hand. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Oh,
okay.
Wait, Lindy.
No, it's for Danielle.
I thought first.
Danielle.
Danielle is counsel. We go
There
to
we
counsel
go. Sorry,
first.
I had to mute because I was coughing.
No worries.
I just wanted to point out in the chat we had a question about what's purple water.
Purple water. Sorry, I can't read the chat when I'm trying to. So purple water is the water that comes from the wastewater treatment plant that has already been treated. So it's like 99% drinkable. And so that is usually in a lot of communities, what they use for watering parks, watering plants, things like that.
Schools.
Schools.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so my comment had to do with Purple Water. The Purple Water, they have run the pipelines through Los Osos to certain locations. It waters the golf course at Sea Pines, and they've made the connection to Los Osos Middle School. It's not complete yet. They have to separate out the school water from the sports fields water, but that's almost complete. And then they also have a pipeline that goes to Sunnyside and also to Monarch Grove Elementary School. So it's part of water conservation for us to reuse this recycled water. It's not potable, you can't drink it, but it's safe enough to put on lawns and water plants. And so that's part of the water conservation that Los Osos has been involved with. And it just makes sense to put a park where you have access to water that's not going to cost you a lot of money.
Do we have Matthew from CSD or anyone else who would like to talk about the meeting that was there? Okay, then I will go to Lindy and ask you to unmute.
Thank you. I think Sunnyside is the most exciting opportunity that Los Osos has. And if you think about it, it is currently rented to Wishing Wells School has the whole upper part almost, and are very successful there. And then the Cal Fire has a number of other buildings as well as the auditorium part of it. I really see that we need to stand up for Los Osos. Years ago, when it first got closed and was going to be leased or sold, we talked about even having a walkway over Los Osos LOVR from the community park over to Sunnyside playfields, and then people would walk up. It is such an opportunity that I hope that we all join in. $5 million for 5 acres of already wonderful opportunity leases with people that are happy there, I think. And opportunities in the future are just so compelling. I really hope that we all join as a community to demand that be. And I will bring back my biggest irony is that when Sunnyside School, excuse me, Monarch School bond went forward, and that was what, 30 years ago. It was all about, we need another school. We have too many children. We don't have enough room. We paid for Monarch in a bond, and then I think it was like a year or two later, they closed Sunnyside. So that school actually has, in some ways, been purchased by our community.
Yeah.
So,
okay,
my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. The next step is Rebecca Russell. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
I've really made myself known tonight. I wanted to start by just thanking you guys for all that you're doing. I'm really excited to see. I didn't know about the council before. I maybe had a glimpse of it somewhere in my head, but I didn't know. And I really appreciate everything all the time and effort that's put into our community. I'm excited to see it. I would hope to eventually be able to participate. So that would be great. I just wanted to lend my support to the idea of the county purchasing Sunnyside for a park setting. I am really hopeful and excited to see how the council is going to incorporate the voice of the community in what is needed and wanted there. I hope that, for instance, I know that specifically pickleball has some push, but I also know that there is a national organization behind them pushing for the development of pickleball, which is really exclusive and the space can be used for nothing but. So I am really hoping that we are able to come together before plans and decisions might not be officially made, but are being made in the minds of the council. So I would like to encourage you to really make this a moment that the whole community is heard and comes together and gets to participate and gets to keep the childcare that we desperately need and the space that can be used by all of the community. So thank you for everything you're doing. And I would love to, hopefully I've emailed you, hopefully I get a better understanding of how I can participate and help and join in on things like these subcommittees. I don't even know how, but I would love to. And I'm here and I'm ready. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Next up is Hillary. And I will ask you to unmute.
Hi, thank you for listening to my comments. My name is Hillary Soldati. I moved to the area about 25 years ago. I grew up in New Hampshire and was raised by a family of public servants. So I'm very appreciative and respectful for the work that you all do. So thank you so much. I have 3 children. My oldest is at San Francisco State University as a freshman. My middle student is a graduate, was in Wishing Well School's first 8th grade graduating class. He's now a sophomore at Morbe. And I have a 2nd grader who's at Wishing Well School. Waldorf education has been a big part of my family's life, and I could share a bit more about that later. So I just want to say when the, so I'm also the administrative director at Wishing Well School. So I do want to say when the article came out over last weekend, I actually want to share that my reaction as I read through all that LOCAC was suggesting, it was all like, yes, 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 yes. It's really the degree of alignment is really meaningful for our school. So everything that you described about being in service to the community, the relationship to nature, open spaces, sort of beautification and bringing community together. These are values that are at the bedrock of our school and Waldorf education in general. We have one of the aspects in which we work with our students is always in teaching them to have reverence for the beauty that nature has to offer. And so that shows up as environmental stewardship, that shows up as care, that shows up as creating sort of beautiful community garden style spaces or opportunities to interact with what nature has to offer and bringing others into that process. So some of the pillars of our education, which focus on social engagement, there are things like lifelong resilience. That's a big theme for us. Personal responsibility. We work deeply with our students along those lines. In the idea that you go out in the world to be a socially engaged member of society and you bring compassion and you bring that sense of responsibility to those around you. So Waldorf education really sees itself as not only being a service to the students and the families, but it sees itself in service to the greater community. And also sees itself, it puts itself in a position of responsibility to be a model for others of how to be in community, and that you're always present sort of with engagement and compassion and tolerance and meeting the needs of others. So all these things are feeling really in alignment with everything that LOCAC was looking for, except for maybe a boat launch. I don't know if we can really do much about a boat launch.
Dreaming, come on.
Okay, sure. So Yeah, I think that probably covers most of my comments. And I'm just really welcoming communication and discussion. You'll be hearing from others later. There's other programs on our site. We have a great relationship with those other programs. As someone mentioned earlier, we're serving children and students in our area. We are, I do want to point out, we are an independent school, which means that we are a private school, which does mean we charge tuition. We're very aware of that. And I will say, what is, again, at the core of Waldorf education is a theme of access, because you are in service to others and in service to the adults of tomorrow. In other parts of the world, Waldorf education is free because it's stitched into the public education model. That's not so here, but it's really important. It's a value to us. Most Waldorf schools have the eventual goal of becoming a charter school so that can be accessible to all, because that's so important to us. As you might be familiar, that can be a decades and decades journey for schools. So in the interim, we are required to charge tuition to pay our very beautiful teachers a living wage to be here. But because access is really important to us, we have a vibrant tuition assistance program. We, as an ethic sort of school value and that lives in our board, is that for any family that wants to be at Wishing Well School and wants Waldorf education for their child, we don't want financial hardship to be a reason why they would not enroll. So we will always work with a family that wants to be enrolled and help make it work for them, because we really believe so passionately in what we're doing and that everyone has a right to it. Okay, I think that's it. Thanks so much, Trish,
All right.
for letting me speak.
You're welcome. Thank you. Stepping Stone, I don't have a name, but I will ask you to unmute.
Hi there. My name is Ashton Bixler. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Ashton Bixler, and I'm actually the owner with Stepping Stone University Preschool. And we've been at Sunnyside for going on 8 years. And I just really, I want to be a part of this community, and I really want to advocate for whatever does happen with the property. Just when the article came out, it was very scary because it actually didn't just talk about the green grass and the lower field and what could happen with that. So having an established business in the community that benefits so many families, it's very scary to have the idea that that could just quickly disappear with a new sale of the property. It's not only myself that is there that has 2 classrooms. Wishing Well is there. There's a traditional school. There's an infant community center. We serve over 150, 200 students total on that campus. So we are a huge part of the community. And I just want to emphasize that if we're looking to what the community needs, I think it's important to hear our ideas and hear from our families and see what is needed both from the younger generation and the older generation. And I would love to get involved with communication, this board or the Sunnyside board that's developed. I don't exactly know what that's called, but I just really want to advocate for keeping the children a part of that space and environment. So
thank you
that's
so
really
much.
Thank you.
We will keep you included in all of our talks.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Deborah?
Yes, I'm so appreciative of these comments that we're getting from you, Hillary, and also Ashton. We are all volunteers on this advisory council, and we serve our community. We're elected by our districts. There are 4 here in Los Osos, but we serve as volunteers. We have no power except for our voice. That's all we have. And we do have access to the county, but the county makes their own decisions. It doesn't matter if we say yes or no, they still can make their own decision. So we have to speak with one voice, in my opinion, so that we can be heard loud and clear about what our needs are. That is why Trish formed the subcommittee to address parks because we have a desperate need for parks and recreation. I'm head of the Transportation Committee, and I welcome anybody to join me on that committee. We are passionate about active transportation and creating pedestrian and bike paths that will be safe for our children. They don't have to ride their bikes on the road, that you could get to Baywood safely, or you could get to the community center or the library safely by traveling on these paths. This is a long-term project, but it starts today. And working with the county and impressing upon them our priorities and how important we feel this is where it begins. The Habitat Conservation Plan is a huge key for us to be able to move forward on creating some of these trails and pathways. So I welcome your participation. And if you send us your email so we can get a list and keep you informed about what's going on. I have monthly meetings for transportation, and of course the General Council meets every month as well.
Thank you. Matthew, I'm going to ask you to unmute. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to I just wanted to touch base on the parks and the big picture of parks. You've talked about that, and we've kind of put in some pieces, but I think I wanted to go through that the HCP, the Habitat Conservation Plan, is a precursor for really approving the community plan update. That's the big deal. And the community plan update includes a Parks and Recreation element. It has a whole section on Parks and Recreation in Los Osos. In that section, it lists out most of the things that our citizens, that have been looked at in the past, brought up in the past, and we'll bring them up again. But it's not just pocket parks. It's not just community gardens. It's not just pickleball. It's sports complex, aquatic parks. It's the whole picture of what Los Osos Parks and Recreation is going to look like in the future. So part of our job between the CSD and LOCAC on this committee that we formed is really to inform that, inform the community plan, because the community plan has to include the pieces that county planning will use in the future to make sure that projects align with the plan. So that's kind of the real big picture. The Community Services District, we have a Parks and Rec committee, and we've been looking at that for a little while. So it's going to be an important piece to get that input from the community and make sure that gets back to the county in that way. Because it's not just these little pieces, it's the whole picture that we really need to take a look at. And the one thing I wanted to just mention about Sunnyside is that it's obviously already part of the community. It is used for Parks and Recreation right now actively. Obviously, it has a huge impact on our community for schools, preschools and schools. And however that shakes out, right now it's at the school district, so it's a public entity. If the county were to acquire it, it'd be a public entity. So as long as we can maintain access for Parks and Recreation at that school site, I think that's going to be part of the big picture in Los Osos. Is right now, basically we have one park, and everything else that we do for the most part is either in the state park or at the schools. Those are our parks. So as we go forward, that's kind of my one thing about Sunnyside that I see as an opportunity, is to keep it in the public sector rather than having it be excluded from Parks and Recreation for the community in the future somehow. I think that's the one thing for me that's important.
Thank you, Matthew. And we're going to need to wrap up this segment. There's two that have their hands up. We'll listen to them very quickly, but then we have
more than two.
Okay, we have a trees and landscape that we have to go back to, and our wishing hour is in 1 minute, which means we're going to go over a little bit. So Matthew, you've already talked. Lindy, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Yeah, I'll try to be very quickly through this too. I really think that the wishing well speakers are missing the picture. This is a community effort to preserve a place for them to have their school, but it's bigger than them. It's also having all the other amenities that are possible on 5 acres. It's only $5 million, folks.
We don't
We
know
can
what the
do this.
cost is. We do not know what the cost is. It's being evaluated right now. We do not know what the cost is. Let's get that clear.
Well, it's affordable somehow, I think. Thank you.
All right, Hillary. I'm going to ask you to unmute. There you
Yeah,
go.
thank you. Sorry if I misrepresented when I spoke. I think, Lindy, I do actually understand. I think what I was trying to suggest, and maybe didn't say it, is we want to, we are in support of this vision, and we see ourselves as fitting in and able to move that vision forward, is what I was trying to articulate. We actually do hear the multi-use of the space. And what I was suggesting is we are advocating for that multi-use. We see that multi-use as well. And we see that as win-win for everyone. We believe that when a full community is thriving, everyone is thriving. So that when the space is used in other ways, it actually makes our small program more vibrant as well. We really see it as all, puzzle pieces that make a whole picture. And we really, we're here to show up in support of that bigger vision, recognizing that actually how a small local school could contribute to that vision. So thank you so much for your time.
Very well spoken. Thank you, Hillary. I am going to, I don't see any more hands up. So Andrea, we skipped over you for trees and landscaping. Can we do a quick report?
Yeah, I can do really quick. We're looking for approval of a project, and I really apologize, Trish. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking it was later on in the agenda. But if I can share my screen really quickly, I will just go through this, not this whole document, but we will go to the picture. Everybody can see that. There we go. So just quickly, and again, my apologies. The tree and landscape committee has been working on areas to plant, and we've been unsuccessful in a couple of different projects. But as of late, we have contacted property owners both on the southeast corner and the southwest corner of Los Osos Valley Road and South Bay Boulevard. And we have been we've gotten permission to plant oaks on both. It shows you the southeast corner of Los Osos Valley Road and South Bay Boulevard, where the proposed plantings will take place. And then on the other side, which is owned by Leon Van Bearden, we're also proposing to plant some oaks there. We're working with EcoSlow for trees and maintenance and care for the first 3 years. And at this point, I think I'll just turn it back over. If there are any questions, we're hoping to get approval and be able to move forward on these projects. Kind of quick.
That was quick. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the trees and landscaping project?
I make a motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Molly, second. All in favor, please raise your hand. Do we have any nays? Do we have any abstains? Okay, it passes.
Thank you.
All right, and with that note, we're going to adjourn at 9:04.
Thank you, Trish.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trish. Everyone have a good night.
Thank you,
Everybody have a
everyone, for
great one.
coming.